Welcome to Mystery Theater, where we attempt to solve cases by asking pertinent questions and providing comprehensive case overviews in a bite-sized, digestible format. On tonight's episode, we take a look at one of the most infamous cases in recent history, the 1996 murder of 6-year-old beauty queen JonBenet Ramsey, who was found beaten and strangled in her basement. Was it a family member that accidentally killed her and covered it up? Or did an intruder break in and do the unthinkable? We'll attempt to answer these questions and more in tonight's Mystery Theater, JonBenet Ramsey. JonBenet Patricia Ramsey was born on August 6, 1990, in Atlanta, Georgia, to father John, a businessman, and mother Patricia, a former Miss West Virginia beauty pageant winner. Her first name is a combination of her father's first and middle names, and her mother's first name was given to her as her middle name. They moved to Boulder, Colorado in 1991, and when JonBenet entered kindergarten, she was enrolled at High Peaks Elementary School. Patricia Ramsey guided her young daughter into a path very similar to her own, entering young JonBenet into various beauty pageants around Boulder, of which she was very successful, winning the titles of America's Royale Miss, Little Miss Charlevoix, Little Miss Colorado, Colorado State All-Star Kids Cover Girl, and National Tiny Miss Beauty. On Christmas morning of 1996, Patsy Ramsey found a 2.5-page handwritten ransom note on her kitchen staircase, demanding $118,000 for JonBenet's return, an amount nearly identical to John Ramsey's previous year's Christmas bonus. It was this note that made the Ramseys aware their daughter was missing from the home, and they immediately called police, despite specific instructions in the note not to do so. The police arrived within 3 minutes and searched the home. Officer Rick French entered the Ramseys' basement and came to a door secured by a wooden latch. Searching for a possible escape route for a kidnapper, he considered opening the door but decided against it and rejoined the group upstairs. Unbeknownst to French, JonBenet's body lay just on the other side of that door. While JonBenet's bedroom was cordoned off to prevent contamination of evidence, the rest of the house was not, and family, friends, and the family's minister arrived at the home to support the grieving parents, picking up items, cleaning surfaces, and destroying any possible evidence. As John made arrangements to pay the ransom, Boulder detective Linda Arndt arrived at approximately 8 a.m. to await the kidnapper's instructions, but there, of course, was never any attempt made to claim the money, as the poor young beauty queen's body lay brutalized and deceased in their basement. And at 1 p.m., at the direction of Detective Arndt, the family began to search the home to see if anything seemed amiss, and John found his daughter's body, strangled and with a head injury, her mouth duct-taped, a nylon cord wrapped around her wrists and neck, as well as a garrote around her neck, and her torso covered by a white blanket. John picked up his daughter's body and carried it upstairs, even further contaminating the crime scene. Within the first couple weeks of the investigation, both elder Ramseys and their 9-year-old son Burke, JonBenet's brother, were heavily suspected, with police believing they may have covered it up. It was determined that not only had the ransom note came from a pad of paper inside the Ramsey home, but a practice draft had also been written. On top of noting how unusual it is for a kidnapper to write a ransom note at a crime scene, the only fingerprints found on it were that of Patsy Ramsey's. But a federal court ruled that it was highly unlikely the note was written by Patsy, citing 6 handwriting experts. And in 2002, the DA's successor took over investigation of the case from the police, and primarily pursued the theory that the killing of JonBenet was done by an intruder. In 2003, trace DNA taken from JonBenet's clothes was found to belong to an unidentified male, excluding each of the family's DNA. Due to this, the DA sent the Ramseys a letter of apology in 2008 that declared them, quote, completely cleared. But others, including Boulder Police Chief Mark Beckner, disagreed with exonerating the Ramseys based on a piece of evidence that has not yet proven to even be connected. And in February of 2009, the Boulder Police took the case back from the DA and reopened the investigation. Many leads and theories have been pursued aside from the accusations against the family, including employees at John's Access Graphics job and the possibility that $118,000 might be referencing Psalm 118. Although Boulder police initially focused almost exclusively upon John and Patsy, by October of 1997 they had over 1,600 people in their index of persons of interest for the case. Burke, who was only 9 years old at the time of his sister's death, has been viewed in the public's eyes as a suspect for years, despite never being considered an official suspect by any authorities. 20 years after the death of his sister, he finally spoke out for the first time on an episode of the Dr. Phil television show, citing his innocence and addressing claims that JonBenet's skull fracture trauma was caused by his mother in a fit of rage, causing her death, saying, quote, "We didn't get spanked. Nothing of the sort, nothing close. Nothing near laying a finger on us, never mind killing your child." Burke was criticized heavily by viewers of the program for smiling while talking about his sister, causing Dr. Phil to address it with the audience that it was only due to nervousness and was normal, and reminding them that at no point was he considered a suspect and was only 9 years old at the time of her death. Two of the lead investigators in the case had opposing views, causing both Lou Smith and Steve Thomas to resign. Smith out of frustration in his feeling that the investigation was incompetent and overlooked the intruder hypothesis, and Thomas because the DA's office had interfered with and failed to support the police investigation of the case. Smith did an on-camera interview where he expressed his frustration at the assumption an intruder could not have entered into a basement window in the home due to a metal grate on the ground covering it. Smith, a man in his 60s, easily lifted the gate and slid in the window on camera. It was reported in September of 2016 that the investigation continues to be an active homicide case, per Boulder Police Chief Greg Testa, after having been reopened once again in October of 2010. Supporters of Smith's intruder theory note an unidentified boot mark left in the basement room where JonBenet's body was found, and the fact that 2 windows were left slightly open to allow for electrical cords for the outside Christmas lights, the broken basement window which Smith crawled through, and 1 unlocked door. Opposers of his theory, however, note that there were intact cobwebs both in the basement window and on the steel gate. But Smith persisted in his theory. Despite resigning from the investigation on September 20th, 1998, he continued to work on the case until his death in 2010. There had been 100 burglaries in the Ramseys' neighborhood in the months before her murder, and there were 38 registered sex offenders living within a 2-mile radius of the home. In July of 2019, JonBenet's photographer, 67-year-old Randall Simons, was jailed on more than a dozen counts of child porn charges. After the beauty queen's death, Simons had sold a portfolio of images from a photo shoot he had done with the 6-year-old. Other suspects in the case have included neighbor Bill McReynolds, who played Santa Claus, former Ramsey family housekeeper Linda Hoffman Pugh, and a man named Michael Helgoth, who died of an apparent suicide shortly after JonBenet's death. Law enforcement continues to be split between the intruder theory and the family theory, with retired FBI profiler Greg McCrary stating statistically it is a 12-to-1 probability that it is a family member or caregiver. In August of 2006, John Mark Carr, a 41-year-old man, was arrested in Bangkok, Thailand, after stating he had drugged, sexually assaulted, and accidentally killed JonBenet, but his confession has been deemed a false confession, as he knew only basic, publicly known facts of the case. No evidence could be found linking him. His DNA did not match the DNA found on her body, and her autopsy indicated no drugs in her system. So what happened to JonBenet Ramsey? Was it an accidental death caused by her mother beating her? Did 9-year-old Burke grow tired of his beauty queen sister getting all the attention and seek revenge on her? Or did an intruder enter the home and sexually assault the young beauty queen, perhaps becoming infatuated with her at one of her many pageants? Is it plausible for an outsider to sit at a crime scene and write a 2.5-page ransom note complete with a practice draft? And if so, why bother creating a ransom note when you're leaving the dead body there? We likely won't know for sure until the perpetrator comes clean, but for now we can only ask these questions. This has been Mystery Theater, and I'll see you next time.